Hello, my name is John Jalbert. This is a short story about what's been happening to me over the last 6 months. Early in January, I was having problems swallowing my food and finding it difficult to do anything really because I was lacking in energy, and by the time I was in early May, I was finding my fatigue levels were way too high and I had no energy to do my job. I asked for my employer to put me on part-time. He did, and found that by the time mid-June rolled around, I couldn't perform at all. I had no energy at all. Went to the physician that's taking care of me, and he suggested blood tests and a complete physical. Found out that I was severely anemic, and I mentioned the fact that I hadn't been having problems previously swallowing, and he suggested that we find out what that was. So I went and booked a scope, and they looked down my throat, and lo and behold, I have an esophageal cancer. First, it was a battery of tests, CT scans and CAT scans and imaging, PET scans, all sorts of different scans to find out exactly what this was, where it was located, and I was told that yes, I definitely have a cancerous growth there. It doesn't appear that it is operable at this point because of its location and the extensive size of it. So I have recently embarked on a program of chemotherapy and radiation. Apparently, I got this esophageal cancer as the result of being in the mechanics trade for 50-some years. I started in the Canadian Army in the early 60s as a mechanic and carried on through. I've been twisting wrenches and fixing cars and trucks and whatever for the last half century, and I guess it finally caught up to my thoracic surgeon suggested that it's 99.9% probability that I picked up this cancer from the asbestos contact that I had throughout my career. The strange thing was, when I joined the Army and was working with all this stuff, they never even mentioned the fact that, gee, asbestos couldn't be that good for you. So without a second thought, I carried on with my career, and here I sit. I'm just wanted to put out a warning to everybody that if you're going to be working around brakes or anything containing asbestos, for goodness sake, wear a mask, wear protective clothing, and stay safe, because it's no fun to go through what I'm going through, and I just as soon you not have it happen rather than have to do what I'm doing. I'm currently in treatment at the Alan Blair Cancer Clinic at the Pasqua Hospital in Regina, and the staff on radiology and chemo are exemplary. I can't say enough nice things about them. They are caring and compassionate and able to deal with all of the symptomology that I've experienced undergoing this treatment, which is somewhat unpleasant, with the diarrhea and ongoing hiccups and mouth ulcers and fatigue that come with the side effects of the treatment I'm receiving. Best thing I can advise, though, is don't prejudge and be afraid of treatment, because if you refuse it, there's no hope. One of the recent incidents that predates my actual start of chemo and radiation was waking up early one morning and started coughing with some thought was sinus drainage. Turned out to be I was bleeding in the back of my throat and down my throat, and possibly from my ulcers, cancer tumor. this was kind of scary, seeing as how it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and found out that once I got to emergency that they managed to see what was going on. They put me on whole blood transfusion immediately and did a scan of my red blood cells. The count was in the basement. It was terrible. And ran me upstairs from emergency to a ward on 3B, where they started administering to my needs, which was a coagulant to stop the bleed, whole blood to keep me viable, and lots of liquids to keep me hydrated. And by the end of the week, I was right as rain and ready to carry on with getting my chemotherapy and radiation treatments started the following week. At this point, I've managed to keep it together. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not as strong as I'd like to be, but that's due to the anemia caused by the loss of blood and the cancer itself. Because I kept working after age 65, because I enjoyed what I do and enjoyed the people I worked with and my environment, that down the road, because I needed disability coverage, I found that the insurance company that handles our company policy has an escape clause for them to negate any responsibility for long-term disability after the age of 65. So if you're in a situation like that, check with your company administrators and make sure that if you are working after 65, that you have some sort of long-term benefits in place to cover you, because right now I'm between a rock and a hard place. My short-term benefits run out at the end of September, and I will be hopefully falling upon the largesse of EI sick benefits, which I've been paying into now for some 50 years, and I figure it's time I got a little bit back. But that's not going to carry me through to the end of my treatment. So that being said, be aware that there are pitfalls out there if you want to continue enjoying your life in your home, because if push comes to shove, I just might end up losing my home, and I would really hate to do that, because we finally found a place where we're comfortable and happy, and I'd like to make sure that that stays in place, if not just for me, but for my wife and son. Travel expenses are quite expensive. I travel back and forth daily for treatment to Regina. It's a 100-kilometer round trip, and that's not cheap nowadays, especially with our wonderful government in place. Other than that, thank you for your attention. Hopefully you'll get some good information out of this, and we'll feel a little less daunted or a little less challenged should you be faced with the same situation I am. God never said our trip through this life would be easy, but He did tell us that we'd never be alone. So keep the faith, stay focused, and the good Lord will help you through.